Hello everybody and welcome back to Locked in Lego, where today I'm excited to be bringing you another minifigure review. And in my opinion, these are some of the best Lego Star Wars minifigures that Lego has come up with. And I'll get into just why that is in a little bit. But before we start, a few things I want to note. Don't think that this is just going to be like a rant on why these figures are so great or what they did right. I'm going to be getting to a lot of my critiques as well about what they did wrong, so don't just think that this is going to be like a praise video on Lego or anything like that. The other thing I want to say before we get started is that I will be referencing the Clone Wars and Rebels quite a bit throughout this video, so if you haven't seen the Clone Wars, I highly recommend that you watch it, or at least the Season 3 and beyond, because that's when the episodes start getting really good. In terms of Rebels, I will be talking about that a little bit. If you haven't watched Rebels or you don't keep up with it, I don't really blame you, because to be honest, I'm not really a fan of Rebels. I really only watch it to follow the storylines of Captain Rex and Ahsoka here. So, yeah, a few spoilers may apply. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but you'll understand it more if you have a little bit of background knowledge about these characters. So, yeah, that's what I want to say about that, and I guess we'll get into this, guys. Let's go. So a moment ago I made the claim that I feel like these are some of the best Lego Star Wars minifigures that Lego has come up with, and I feel this way for a number of reasons. Not just that these are good like minifigures on their own, but like the evolution of these figures from figure to figure, the progression of them is really what makes them interesting. And it's not just the progression of like minifigure design, but each figure encapsulates the progression of Lego design, as well as how these characters grow in the Clone Wars and Rebels. What I mean by this, taking Ahsoka for example, when she first came out in the Clone Wars movie in 2008, she was a very simple character, you know? Like, a lot of people didn't like the initial Clone Wars movie, they thought it was pretty bad, but a lot of this reason comes from the fact that they didn't like Ahsoka, who's one of the main characters. A lot of people can agree, and I can agree on this too, that when Ahsoka first came out, she was this very childlike, basic, one-dimensional character. She didn't really have a whole lot of character development going on. Now, how the Lego design ties into this is they really capture just this basic, initial, like, Ahsoka. There's no leg printing, no back printing, just a very simple torso design and face design. The printing isn't that high quality either, but that is just due to the fact that Lego was still like experimenting with what they could do back then. But even the lightsaber here, it's just like a gray hilt and a almost yellow lightsaber, which is just like really not that good, which is kind of how Ahsoka is when she first comes out in the movie and the first 2 seasons of Clone Wars. Just not a very good overall person or character. And so once we get into seasons 3 through 5 of the Clone Wars, we move over to this version of Ahsoka, and it's in these seasons where Ahsoka really starts to develop as a character, and you can really see this like through her minifigure. Now, in seasons 3 through 5, we have like episodes like Heroes on Both Sides, Wookiee Hunt, The Wrong Jedi. All of those are just really good Clone Wars episodes that really develop Ahsoka's character. They give her like this sense of like that war is not just like black and white. There's like in between and gray areas, and she really just gets a better understanding of the Force and just how the galaxy is working. And so she's really just becoming this overall more mature figure, and this is really shown through Lego's design of her. Like right off the bat, we see that like her printing is much better. Her torso design has much more detail, and you can see that like Lego was really like experimenting with what they could do with this. They also added some leg printing, and the head printing is the same mold as the first one, but it's just much more cleaner. Also, I like that they gave some expression to her face that really shows like how she's not just like this blank, bland character like it shows in the first minifigure. It really gives some life to the character, which I really enjoy. Also, the lightsabers, just a side note, those are the silver hilts, and the really just like the green here just makes it look really nice. I really like the lightsabers there. But really, it just captures the progression of Ahsoka. So, I think Lego did a good job on that. And then we get to this last minifigure here, which I think is one of the best LEGO minifigures that they've ever made. And partly it's just because this figure looks so cool. It's amazing. And partly because it really captures the adulthood, the maturity that Ahsoka gets when she reaches the Rebels phase. Like in Rebels, I don't want to go off too much about Rebels because I don't really enjoy it that much. But Ahsoka has the most character development of any character on that show. Like, again, I don't want to get too off topic, but I just really don't like Rebels. I feel like the characters don't have that much development. And I feel like Rex and Ahsoka are the characters with the most development on that show. And that's partly because they had all this prior development before that really built on their characters in this new show. So I feel like, although like LEGO did miss a little bit, like I don't think they hit like the perfect 10 out of 10 mark, I do think they really captured like Ahsoka's like Rebels like style look, her mature look. And they did this through the different printing that they use. Like they really like push their limits, especially with this headpiece and the printing on that. But just the overall detail on the figure is just really, really nice. And this is the first time, or not the first time, but one of the few times a character has gotten their own custom lightsaber pieces, which is really great. In terms of like her face though, I don't feel like they got that quite right. Like her eyes are a little bit too blue. I know she has blue eyes, but like they're not really that blue. Like this kind of gives her like a kind of like a soullessness, which I'm not really a fan of. But like it almost gives you the impression of like the Chirrut Imwe eyes they did on this guy. I think this figure's fine because he's blind, so that kind of works. But this one, I feel like it makes her look a little too scary almost, which I don't like. But really, overall, it's just a really like mature figure. It's one of the most mature LEGO figures I've ever seen, which is pretty nice for like a children's toy, basically. Although it did come with a pretty expensive set. But for the most part, that's what I want to say in terms of what I meant about the evolution of the figures. Basically, bottom line is that for 8 years from when this was released in 2008 to 2016, they really just LEGO captured the development of these characters in the Clone Wars, and it really goes to show how far LEGO has come and how far the Clone Wars and Rebels has come. So that's just what I want to say about that. So I know I got a little off topic with my little rant about character development, and what you guys really came to see was how these minifigures actually compare with each other. So we'll start off with just taking a look at the lightsabers here. We'll just take one from each. And really you can just see how they progressed and how they compare with each other. We have this first one here that came with the first Ahsoka. It's, like I said earlier, it's just gray and yellow, and I personally just don't like it. And then we have this lightsaber, which I think is perfect for the time it was released and the figure it went with. I think it really just complements this Ahsoka figure. So I really do like this one. And then this one, the hilt is just fantastic. It's got a little bit of a curve to it, and it's just really, really well designed. Now, one thing to say though is this blue coloring here. Now, I'm not like, a lot of people don't really understand why they chose to make it blue, and personally, like, I mean, if you've ever tried, they did make clear lightsaber pieces in the past for other stuff, and personally, if you drop one of those clear LEGO on the floor, especially on carpet, it can be really hard to find. So like that might be one reason why they decided to do it, but I mean, maybe. Personally, I think they just did it because it really complements the figure here. Like, Ahsoka in Rebels has white lightsabers, but they didn't follow like her design exactly in this figure, which is why I think it's okay that they gave these lightsabers a little bit of a blue tint. I don't mind it too much. I think it's okay. Like, as long as it complements the figures, that's all you really need. So, I'm not obviously it's not optimal, but I think it's alright. I'll let that one slide. So next up, we just really have the figures here. These two head molds are practically the same, although the newer one just is a little bit better. It's a little bit newer. This Ahsoka does have an angry face on the back, which is pretty nice to have. You don't get a lot of those. And this headpiece is very nice. It's not like the standard hard plastic like we have on these two. It's got a little bit of like bend to it, a little bit of rubber, and it's very well printed. Especially on the back here, we get all sorts of nice designs going on, which is really, really nice. And then you can see her face more underneath, which is really cool. It's just like really mature, really, really intricate actually, and it just captures her figure. I really like it. Like I said before though, the eyes, not a fan of it. I can't really explain it. It's just I wouldn't really picture Ahsoka having like that kind of eyes. Like, I think these eyes are personally better, but that's all I have to say about that. In terms of the torsos here, this one just very basic, don't really like it. The belt is pretty bad actually, not gonna sugarcoat that. And then we get into this figure and we can see how they started to print like a little bit of like black on the sides here to kind of give the impression of like a little bit thinner waist, which is something that they wanted to capture for their female minifigures. And then we get that again here. I'll take off this so you can see it better. They just really tried to make it look like it was like a female figure, someone who was like a little bit thinner. And also they tried to get a little bit of her skin color here. Also you can see her alternate angry face there. It's pretty nice to have two faces on this figure. So I really do like the printing on this one, really do. And then in terms of the like overall, or leg printing too, hold on. Both got some good leg printing here. This one doesn't have any. Really don't like this figure. But yeah, these two are really good. In terms of overall, this one is by far the best. I mean, obviously it's the most expensive to get, but it's worth it to get this figure. It's really nice, and I think LEGO did a fantastic job on this figure. Now, I didn't really get to talk about a lot about Captain Rex's development as a character, so I'll touch on that really quickly. Captain Rex, when he first made his debut in the 2008 movie, he was already a pretty cool character. Didn't have a lot of development, but he was good starting out, so he didn't really need a lot of development. Yeah, but still he was pretty one-dimensional, I felt like, when he had this armor. But then once he gets into seasons 3 through 5, which is really the golden age, well, I guess season 6 too of Clone Wars is really good, but that's really the golden age of the Clone Wars. And Rex really, especially through like the Umbaran arc, he gets a lot of development that really makes you like him as a character. Like, he loses, like you watch him in battle and you see how much like he loses and how much it takes to be a soldier, and it really just makes him a really great character, and it shows through his minifigure. It's just really great. I actually think he was better in the Clone Wars than he was in Rebels, because in Rebels he just doesn't have that same like emotional connection that you felt with him when he was losing like his brothers during battle, which is, I mean, that's just Rebels, I guess. I mean, there's not as much like action in Rebels, I feel like. But anyway, looking just at the figures here, obviously there's a lot of changes because phase 1 to phase 2 armor, but the helmets are actually a lot different. Obviously he's got like his blue highlights and his blue markings here. But one thing to note, that one major change between the helmets was all phase 1 clones had this little hole right here for helmet attachments, and I don't know why, but they completely got rid of that for the phase 2 figures, which I personally didn't like. One thing I did like though was how they made this transition from this plastic bulky armor to the fabric-y stuff. I like that much better. Also, the weaponry is a lot better. I didn't really like the gray pistols. I personally think these black ones with the little scope on top is much better. Although his pistols didn't have a scope on top, I think it's still pretty cool. Obviously, this guy just has a lot of more detail because he's newer, and his leg printing is pretty good. Underneath these two guys' helmets, they share the same face because they are the same person. So not much to look at there. And then comparing these two figures to the Rebels edition, we can see there's a lot of changes that went on. Really the only thing that still makes him look like a clone is this little remnant of clone armor that he still has left. Like he doesn't have the legs anymore, like the clone armor legs, and he doesn't even have his iconic blue arms anymore. And really, I just don't think his face really reminds me of a clone that much. Like the Rebels design, obviously, is a lot different, and he's a lot older. But when I look at this face, without the rest of the body, I just don't see Captain Rex there. So I'm just not a fan of that. I also would have been appreciative if they included a Rebels animation style helmet that was like his most recent one, because that would have been nice to have to compare to this Clone Wars version. But they didn't do that for whatever reason, which made me really sad. And then I know he didn't have any hair, but I still would have liked something, just so all the minifigures in this set didn't have this bald head. But anyway, in terms of just the overall figure here, you can tell that he's missing this part right here that both these have, because he's gained a little weight and he can't wear that anymore. And if you look really carefully, you can see these marks right here are prevalent on this figure right here on the sides right there. So that's pretty cool. A lot of people don't pick that up at first. And then looking at the backs, they're basically the exact same. This one's just a little bit simpler. It's really just a negative progression. Normally figures get more complex like this, but this one's just really, really simple. I still like it. I still like having it. But it's just definitely not the best Rex. I would say the center one definitely wins in that respect. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe learned a thing or two you didn't know about Rebels and the Clone Wars. I didn't mean to go in depth as I did about character development and stuff. You guys probably don't care that much about that kind of stuff. But I just felt like I needed to say it because it really does contribute to... It really helps you understand how these changes went in LEGO and these characters in the Clone Wars. So if you did enjoy the video, please subscribe, and I guess we'll see you next time here on Locked in LEGO. Bye guys.